Elias Davis letter number 8, written from a camp in Virginia around January 1863. My dear Georgia, your letter mailed on the 23rd came to hand the day before yesterday. It made a hasty trip. I received a letter from Manda this evening, dated the 22nd, mailed on the 24th. Manda wrote to me that Mrs. Marshall was dead. Her life was no pleasure to her and no satisfaction to her family. Georgie and Betty have had a hard time. Mrs. Marshall's death will break up the rendezvous of Marshall family at George's. You stated in your letter that you had heard that I was sick. I hope you've heard now that I'm well. My health is as good now as it was before I was sick. I'm not so fleshy as I was, but I'm fattening. We went on picket duty on yesterday. We're to leave this evening. Nothing of interest occurred. We're going to work early tomorrow morning to make ourselves comfortable. Though we may not stay here a week, Mark McMillan and I are going to dig a pit in the ground, dig a chimney to it, and stretch our fly over it. We will be as warm as mice in a cotton sack. Prince is well pleased and exerts himself to please me. He's quite popular at Mr. Jones's as well as myself. He's given such a glowing description to Jones's Negroes of Alabama that all of them are anxious to go to Alabama. They've always had a horror of going south until they saw Prince. Mr. Jones speaks of moving to Alabama. He says that Prince's staying a while at his house has had a good effect. I will send Prince to Jones's tomorrow after soap. I've not visited the family since I left there after recovering from sickness. We are not allowed to leave camp. The country is full of provost guards arresting men and officers. I hope this time is not far distant when we will be out of sight of the enemy and allowed to fire up for the winter. We can make ourselves much more comfortable than you can imagine. Georgia, I have nothing else of interest to write and will close on account of the coldness of my fingers. You ought to receive letters from me frequently. No person writes more often than you do. Remember me to all of the family. Your husband, Elias Davis.